All right, I think the recording has started there. It's great to see such good numbers here this afternoon. Thank you very much for taking the time to join. Um, we've already run four in-person sessions around the New Solutions Social Innovation Lab around the country over the last 2 to 3 weeks. Now, these sessions are designed to fulfill two purposes, really. First is awareness raising. So, I suppose telling people about the lab and the opportunity that it might entail for them, and also getting a bit of a sense back from people about what they would like the lab to see and where they would like its focus to be and things like that. So there has been very much a co-creation or co-design element to this as well. Now, mindful that online sessions, it's a difficult ask to expect people to stay on too long. I've kind of pared back the co-creation bit to give you a little bit of an overview of what we've got back from the four sessions so far. So we won't do the full workshop that we've done in the in-person sessions, but I will give you a summary and allow you to come in with further thoughts or reflections and things like that. So just to get people started, and the focus of today's sessions absolutely won't be kind of academic or anything like that. So I hope that starting with a definition isn't getting us off on the wrong foot. But I am mindful that social innovation can mean different things to different people. And it has been a learning from the in-person session so far as well, that everybody's level of understanding or familiarity with the concept of social innovation might not be exactly the same. So there are different definitions of social innovation out there. This is one that we, as a consortium of a partnership, settled on as a kind of common point of departure for us and for this project. And that social innovation is the development and implementation of new ideas, as product, services, and models to meet social needs and create new social relationships or collaborations. Just in the preparation for this session, I kind of did have a more systematic look at other definitions that are out there, and young social innovators have one which I particularly like. I don't know if there's anybody from young social innovators here, but I think it's quite simple and to the point. They talk about creating and developing solutions that improve the well-being of people, society, and the planet. It is about innovation that works for the common good. I think that bit about innovation working for the common good is and quite a neat way of kind of capturing the essence of what we're talking about. Now, to move away from the academic part and into the practical part of what we're doing. Before getting into the lab itself, I just want to talk a little bit about the background to the lab. Because there are a couple of other strands of work that are going on alongside it, and all of it is kind of being undertaken within a consortium or partnership arrangement that I'll talk about in a second. But all of the work is facilitated by something called the New Solutions Social Innovation Fund, which is partly funded by the European Union through ESF Plus and the Irish government. And the overarching goal of the New Solutions Social Innovation Fund is to enhance the ecosystem for social innovation in Ireland. So I suppose we're mindful that Ireland is now around halfway through its second national social enterprise policy, and there is a significant amount of crossover between social enterprise and social innovation. And many of you, I think, will probably be quite well established or well embedded in the social enterprise space. But social innovation allows for kind of a broader concept in some respects. So if you are new to this space, I suppose you're any lack of engagement, or if you haven't had engagement with the social enterprise space in the past, please stick with us, because social innovation might just sort of be the point of connection between you and this domain of work. So the more specific objectives of the New Solutions Social Innovation Fund are to raise awareness and promote synergies with related policy areas like social enterprise, also social inclusion and community-led local development. To build social innovation capacity at a national, regional, and local and community level. And when I come to the lab in a second, the focus will very much be on the latter of those kind of three levels, the local and community level. to provide funding for the development and growth of social innovation. And there have been a couple of grant calls delivered through the New Solutions Social Innovation Fund. I'll talk about those in a second as well, although they are happening somewhat separate to the lab, and to create an enabling environment for social innovations to thrive and scale. Now, I kind of pull together this slide and ask you just to stick with me for a second, because we often hear that the social enterprise or social innovation ecosystem in Ireland is quite a crowded and complex one. And I appreciate that this slide and all of the people featured within it might not help that cause. But I include it here, I suppose, because I'm mindful that you might be getting communications about the lab or about the fund or about other strands of the work from various of these entities, and I do want to just give you a sense of how it's all tied together. So there is a consortium comprising these 6 organisations: Rethink Ireland, ourselves, which is Local Development Companies Network, DCU, the Wheel, Údarás na Gaeltachta, and Western Development Commission. We, as the six organisations working in this space, have come together to deliver the New Solutions Social Innovation Fund on behalf of Pobal and the Department of Rural Community Development and the Gaeltacht. So you might be hearing from us, or individual members of this consortium, about different elements, but we are doing our best to try to kind of streamline communications under the consistent, coherent umbrella of New Solutions. Just for the benefit of anybody that doesn't know these 6 organisations, a very, very quick overview of who they are. Rethink Ireland is the lead partner in this consortium, and they have a long history of supporting social enterprise and social innovation in Ireland through grants and other kinds of supports. Local Development Companies Network, which is the organisation that I belong to, we are leading on the New Solutions Lab element of this programme of work. And we're the national representative body for local development companies, leader partnerships in Ireland. And some of you might have had some engagement with the local development company in your area already. DCU, Dublin City University, probably doesn't need too much explanation, but there is some work ongoing within the consortium as well around kind of mapping ecosystem level needs. And that's a piece of work that DCU are leading on. The Wheel is the national organisation for charities and community and voluntary organisations. Údarás na Gaeltachta, obviously responsible for promoting development in Gaeltacht regions, and similarly Western Development Commission work to promote economic development along that western corridor, sort of from Donegal down to County Clare. So again, I hope that doesn't kind of bamboozle you, but just to kind of give you a sense of the structure through which this work is being delivered. Again, just kind of talking about the background of the lab and where it's coming from. I just want to kind of position the different strands of work that are being undertaken through the New Solutions Social Innovation Fund along this life cycle. And this is a kind of a life cycle of social innovation. If we can imagine from prompts, we should kind of think of as social problems that motivate people to engage in social innovation, through systems change all the way at the very end, the far end of the curve. And I appreciate that life cycle models like this aren't perfect. You know, people jump levels and people move back and forward, but it is useful as a kind of an organizing framework for the work of the New Solutions Consortium, the hub. The first thing to mention, in fact, is the hub itself, and the hub is sort of a central digital space. We're currently building out a website that is intended to be a first port of call for social innovators in Ireland at all stages of development. Now, you might have come to today's session through the website that's already there, but we are working to develop that website, build the functionality, and broaden the kind of suite of resources within it. So whatever your reason for taking an interest in social innovation, whether it's with a view to embarking in social innovation or looking to learn more about it from an academic point of view or anything like that, this website is intended to be a first port of call for you, and somewhere where you can go as a jumping off point to other supports that are available. Now, I mentioned in the last slide just about the grants that are available through the the New Solutions Fund, there are two, namely the Scaling Up grants and the pilot grants. The Scaling Up grants process concluded last November. The pilot grants process is still underway, and outcomes for that will be communicated in September. So both of those calls have now closed, but I'm, I suppose, illustrating them in this way just to kind of showcase that principle of the hub working to support social innovators at all stages of this life cycle. And the Scaling Up grants and the pilot grants both would support social innovators that are a little bit more established. The pilot grants were up to €100,000 in value. The Scaling Up grants were up to €300,000 in value. So both are targeted at social innovators and organizations with a level of capacity that would allow them to kind of handle grants at that scale. The New Solutions Lab has a more specific target, and is targeted at social innovators at a much earlier stage of development. So right at the beginning of this kind of life cycle curve. And just to go into a little bit more depth on that, the purpose of the hub, as I've kind of alluded to there, is to support participants to develop and refine and test new solutions to social problems, to equip participants with the skills that they need to progress their ideas beyond the lab. So we did a little bit of an analysis just of the supports that are out there for early stage social innovation, social enterprises. There is quite a bit out there in the way of supports for established and high potential social innovators, and some of that actually is being delivered through the lab, but quite a lot is, through the fund, but quite a lot of it is being delivered outside of the fund as well. But by comparison, relatively few supports for idea stage or nascent social entrepreneurs or social innovators. And really, this is the specific gap that the lab is looking to fill. Just on that point of the audience, the innovations and innovators at an early stage of development. I suppose just to kind of use this point to kind of help clarify the target for the lab and whether it might be something that's of interest to you. The pilot grants, which were one of the grants that were delivered through the fund, were targeted at established social innovators or social enterprises that are working to do something new. Something new, innovative. It is, as the name suggests, intended to support pilot projects. But as I said at the start, they were kind of targeted at established social innovators. The target for the lab is people that are newer to the domain of social innovation or social enterprise. They might have had some involvement in a social enterprise at a grassroots level, and please don't be put off if you have had some involvement. But really the core focus of the lab is people that are newer to this space, who have little or no prior involvement or experience in the area of social innovation. And just to kind of follow that through in terms of what the lab itself will comprise. Provisionally, we've designed the lab as a program of 8 themed workshops that come together in a kind of a structured curriculum intended to support people from the very beginning of that social innovation journey through the point where they have ideas that are ready to sort of begin to be piloted or tested or applied. Each of those workshops will have a discrete theme, and each will be expert-led. It is going to be blended delivery, so a mix of online and in-person engagement. It will be primarily online. Currently, the plan is for 6 of the 8 workshops to be delivered online, and the remaining 2 workshops, the in-person ones, to be delivered in different parts of the country to make it as easy as possible for people to engage with these workshops as we can make it. So I suppose we're trying to be as mindful as we can that, you know, people that are new to the space may not kind of have the time or the means necessarily to be traveling to Dublin or the Midlands, depending on where you're coming from, which might be a kind of a full day or more. So just as a point of principle more than anything else, to make the lab as accessible and as inclusive as possible for people. Peer-to-peer engagement is kind of sort of baked into the design of what we're doing here. People will be moving through the lab with others that are at a similar stage of development. Support, as I said earlier, to progress your idea independently of the lab, and the opportunity to secure a €5,000 seed grant for your idea. Now, I would stress that the lab itself is not, it wasn't conceived really as a funding program as such, but there is a small funding element built in the form of this €5,000 seed grant. Just to put it in context, I mean, the pilot grants, there's been provisions made for up to 40 of those at €100,000 a piece. So the simple math of that is around €4 million, and the scaling up grants, there's 9 of those at €300,000 a piece. So that equates to about 2.7 million. We have provision made within the lab of €5,000 seed grants. So that's around €25,000. So just to kind of put it in context, it is a very small amount of money. And I say that, I suppose, to emphasize what we would see as being the lab's core purpose, which is more of a developmental initiative than a funding initiative. So that's, I suppose, just to kind of make that clear. There is also, just from a kind of an administrative or operational point of view, some limitations on this €5,000 element. We will need organizations to be incorporated to be eligible for that specific €5,000 seed grant, just from a governance point of view. Because we can't, for obvious reasons, sort of be giving it out to individuals where there is no sort of mechanism to ensure that it's spent sort of in service of the New Solutions idea, or the social innovation idea. But wider participation in the lab is much more open than that. And just to that point, and to the point of eligibility, we are looking, again, sort of as a point of principle, to make this as open as possible. So although there are some limitations in the €5,000 seed grant element, the lab itself, we've tried to make as inclusive as we can. So applications from individuals, groups, or organizations are very much welcome. In advance of applying for the lab, applicants are not required to have a specific social innovation idea, a plan for implementing any idea, or having taken concrete steps towards the implementation of an idea. So here the lab might diverge a little bit from other sort of similar supports that are out there. And the underlying logic here is that kind of the innovation idea itself will emerge and will be refined through the process of the lab itself, or over the course of the lab itself. And rather than necessarily kind of bringing a fully formed idea to the table, what we're looking instead to do is to get a sense of people's motivations for engaging in the lab. You know, what are the problems that they're interested in, and how do they see the lab kind of supporting them to build sort of actionable or practical solutions to address those problems. So you'll see kind of in the application form, I'll talk about the application process in a second. That's kind of what the application form speaks to, that kind of your motivation for engaging with the lab, rather than tell us about your idea and sell us on your idea, because, as I said, the premise is that idea will surface in and through the lab itself. And I think that's just kind of touched on in the last couple of points there. And experience, again, just experience in social innovation, social enterprise, or other forms of local development work is not a prerequisite for applying. So we are kind of looking at and hoping to build quite a diverse pool of participants in the lab. The application process is really simple. And the lab is open for applications and has been for the last couple of weeks, and it will remain open for the next couple of weeks. Actually, it closes on the 12th of July. If you go to the website newsolutions.ie, click on the tab for Social Innovation Lab, you'll get hopefully all of the information that you need and links to the application portal, which is quite short and quite simple. I should have maybe just specified at the outset that participation in the lab is entirely free. There's no cost associated. And in actual fact, as well as the €5,000 seed grant, there is a small bursary for for all participants in the lab. I think it amounts to €150. I need to just double check that, but I think it's €150. And really the purpose of that bursary is to facilitate in-person engagement where that might come at a cost in the form of travel or other things like that. So as I said at the beginning, here is kind of the point in the in-person workshops where in-person sessions where we would have had a kind of a co-design workshop around the content and structure of the lab. But mindful that this is an online session, and I think maybe people want to kind of get a sense of what the lab is about. What I've done instead is to try to kind of distill the main takeaways from those sessions into a slide here. If you were at those sessions and you kind of heard all the things mentioned or mentioned all the things yourself, don't feel in any way kind of put out that it's not there. We have captured everything, but just for the purposes of today's session, I've just tried to boil that down to a quick summary. So what did people tell us that they wanted to see in the lab, or what did they tell us they wanted the lab to be? They said they want a strong focus on practical content. So parking the kind of academic definitional stuff that I started with, that won't be the purpose of the lab. It will have a strong practical focus. Opportunities for peer-to-peer engagement within and beyond the lab. So I have said that that element of peer-to-peer engagement is kind of naturally built into the design of the lab, because people will be working through with others that are at a similar stage of that sort of social innovation process. But something else that came through kind of on top of that from the in-person workshops were opportunities to engage with people that might be a little bit further along the curve. So they may not themselves be engaged or participating in the lab, but may be 3 to 5 years beyond that, and would therefore be kind of well placed to give people that are a much earlier stage in the process a steer on what they need to be focusing on or what they need to do next. And that's something that we'll be looking to build into the design of the lab, maybe taking advantage of the wider structure that we have here with the New Solutions Fund and the other grantees that are being supported by the fund. To support participants to independently navigate the support ecosystem. I did say earlier on that ecosystem is often regarded, with good reason, as being quite a complex one. But one of the kind of central objectives of the lab will be to help people navigate that landscape. There are a lot of different providers and support out there, some of which exist within the New Solutions Consortium and some outside of it. But kind of helping people to understand and find your way through that will be an important focus of the lab. And something else that people told us was important is to mitigate the barriers to financial participation. Again, just to mention again what I said before about that small financial bursary that's there for people. And we have a provision as well if anybody, for any particular reason, has higher than kind of typical costs for maybe attending in-person events, that we can allocate additional funds to support that as well. That's a very quick overview of the lab, its background and what it aims to do. I will stop now. I'll cut the recording and I'll open it up to any questions that there might be from the floor. I see I haven't been able to have a very close eye in the chat as I've been talking there, but I see that there's been one or two come in from the chat, which I'll come back to as well. So I just stop the recording first.